So now you should be on slide 4, and we're going to look at the h value, right? And we're going to really look at how that h value changes our parabola. So you can leave a alone for now, and we're just going to look at the h value. So if we move the h value back and forth, right? What's really interesting about this is that you can see it's really, really clear that we're simply moving back and forth, right? Back and forth. But there's a little bit of a catch here. So I want you to kind of think about it. So if you look at this right here, the question says, what happens, slide 5, what happens to the graph when you change the value of h? Just keep it really basic. But for me here, what I'd be writing in is it moves the graph, right, or the parabola left and right. It's a purely left and right movement. We're going from the left to the right, from the left to the right. Okay, so it's really interesting to kind of look at how that works. The thing about it though is it's a bit of a trick. It's a bit of a trick because, well, I went too far. Because if we come back to our notes here, right? If we come back to our notes here, what's interesting about this is, I'm going to show you right here, is that if you look at your h value, okay, if you look at your h value, what's right in front of h? What's right in front of h is a negative sign or a minus sign. And if you remember from earlier in this unit, we talked about how the minus sign actually just means the opposite of, right? And when we have negative b over 2a, negative b over 2a really just meant the opposite of b over 2a, right? So this minus sign, because that's the sign that's inside the actual vertex form, it's actually having a weird effect on the parabola. So if you go back to slide 4, right now, my h, let's take h back to 0, right? So right now, we're right here, and my h is 0. But if I change my h to 3, it moved it 3 places to the right. But there's a little bit of a catch there, because what you're going to see in the equation isn't a positive 3. What you're going to see in the equation is you're going to see x minus 3, okay? So this is a bit of a little trick here, because you have to be very, very careful. So what I want to look at on our notes is when you see, what is it that you're going to see? So for example, I think I got to go vertical still here. Okay, so in this equation, I have y equals x minus 3 squared. So in the parentheses, we have an x minus 3. So the operation that we see right here, right, the operation that we see inside the parentheses is a minus 3. And you might think that that would be to the left 3 places. But because the minus sign really means opposite, then what that's actually saying here is that this is going to be the opposite of what we see. So we see negative 3, which means h is actually positive 3, which means we're actually moving to the right 3 places. All right, so that's a bit of a trick there. It plays a little bit of a trick on your brain, that you're going to see a minus sign, and in your intuition, your minus sign is going to think, oh, that goes to the left. I get what you're saying, but the h here is going to be the opposite of what you see. Okay, so I often think about the h as the word hypocrite, right? If you know a hypocrite is someone who says there's something, they say this is who I am, but then they're actually the exact opposite, right? So if I promised you that I never used profanity, I never cussed ever, and then you saw me, in Walmart cussing my kids out, that would make me a hypocrite, right? So if it's saying it's negative 3, that's what you're going to see, but then you're actually the opposite of that. That's a positive 3, okay? So what about the other way around? What do we see here? I see x plus 5 squared, right? Notice it's in parentheses. It has to be in parentheses to be h. So I see x plus 5. So who do we see? We see a positive 5, which means h is actually negative 5, which means we move to the left 5, right? So if we were to come back to our Desmos activity, you might see a positive 5, but that actually means that h is negative. So we moved from here, 0, 0, 1, all the way over here to negative 5, 1, right? I'll put this down to 0 so is right on the x-axis, right? So remember, where were we? We were at 0, 0, right? 0, 0, that's where we were. And we're now, trying to get this to change colors, we're now all the way over here. So we moved from 0, 0 over to negative 5, 0 because our h was truly negative 5. But again, it's the opposite of what you see. Last one, we see x minus 8, but h is truly positive 8, which means we move to the right, 8 places. We're going to move to the right 8 places. Okay? So that's the role of h. Really, really important. It can really trip you up, but you got to be careful that what you see is actually the opposite of who that truly really is. And then once you know who it truly is, it's kind of based on your intuition. Positive h's go to the right, negative h's go to the left. Okay? So that's the role of h. Let's look next at the role of k.